Craig Hunter here for Group 9 with Joe Barr, the Business Development Manager at Magna Powertrain in Muncie, Indiana, for our leadership interview. Kind of to start things off, I'd just like to ask you about your bio, kind of the path that you took to the position that you're in today, as well as just a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. So I'm from the area. Grew up in Yorktown. Went to Ball State in manufacturing engineering technology. Um, from there, I went to New Venture Gear. I spent time as a production supervisor, as a manufacturing planner or general foreman. Then went into manufacturing engineering. Uh, as New Venture Gear decided to close its doors here in Muncie, I then transferred to the Metaldyne chassis plant in Newcastle, formerly Chrysler. I went there as a manufacturing engineer. Spent some time on the floor before becoming a business unit manager or an area manager. From there, I went back into engineering and went to the engineering manager's position for a couple of years. So from Metaldyne, as Magna Powertrain here in Muncie started growing up, Magna is made up from the salary side of about a 50-50 split between BorgWarner Automotive and New Venture Gear. So with the connections I had and the past relationships that I had from those facilities, I came back to Muncie to be the engineering manager for Magna Powertrain. I spent about 3 years in that role. As we saw the opportunity to grow the business and take on some new projects, I took the position of business development manager, and for the last 18 months I've been planning on launching this facility.
Okay. As a leader in your organization, what are the most important decisions that you have to make?
Well, it's the balance between the predicting the future or trying to quote the proper products and processes for our plant. At the same time, trying to stay close to the people and understanding that we're putting the right people in the right positions and that we're pursuing the right business.
As far as what is your firm's mission statement, or what are some effective ways of ensuring that your firm's activities are in line with that mission statement and core values?
Well, the Magna Powertrain is kind of an interesting because it started with one person, a guy named Frank Stronach, back in the 50s. He came over from Austria, was a tool maker, and then started doing his shop started making parts, I think, to begin with for General Motors. He continues to have his little mission to be make a better product for a better price, and it's kind of corny, but it really is something that through the flexible workforce that we have, each division actually serves as its own business unit, so it's responsible for its own P&L. So really, with that, we have to continue to drive to make better products and to reduce our operating structure, our operating cost, so we truly can try and make a better part for a better price.
Okay. Now, do you set aside specific time to get this point across to your employees?
Yeah. So for Magna, we operate under something called the employee charter. It's really kind of, we talk about a mission statement. It's kind of the blueprint for how Magna says that this is the best way to run a business. With that, we have things such as our communication, our fair treatment, all of the key principles for what we do. With that, then we have part of our communication is we set aside an all-employee meeting every month to talk about quality, scrap, new business, profit and loss, any new items that are specific, safety, training, those things. So it's about a 1-hour session once per month with all employees to talk about what's going on with the plant currently, what we're quoting, what's in the future, if we see anything in the marketplace, vehicle days on hand, so we know what the inventory is with all of the automotive suppliers. So it's really our time to get everybody together at the same time and hear the same message.
Okay. So basically, just at the time to get, just so everybody can get on the same page.
Yeah, because up to and including questions and answers and what's in the rumor mill. What's going on. What do you want to know about?
Yeah.
Everybody knows we have a very very strong open door policy. So there's no There's no chain of command that you have to follow before you can talk to somebody. My door is always open. My boss's door is always open. So it's very easy to be approached, and that's part of the culture here that we've really tried to promote and be consistent with. Too many times at companies, they say, okay, this is our motto, this is what we do, but they don't necessarily practice what they preach. In the time that I've been here at Magna in the past 4 years, we've had all employee meetings every month with good news and bad, and times of layoffs as well as times of growth. So it's just about being that consistent and being open.
Okay. Now, as far as like great ideas within the organization, where would you say that those come from?
All throughout the ranks, from the operator that says, "Hey, I have a better way to do this job. It'll save us time and energy, or money, or manpower." From our engineering community, all the way up through our staff. We are a very flat organization, meaning that there are no mid-level managers. You have the frontline supervisors and you have the staff. So everybody's a working person. So it really takes away all the levels that things can get lost in. If an operator has an idea, we have a suggestion program. So they can turn it in, they can come straight to me, come straight to Stephen Brand, the general manager. It really promotes empowerment of the people, that everybody's ideas can be communicated very quickly all the way through the organization.
So it makes it for a good atmosphere. If, say, someone thinks that they have a better way to do it, then you guys would be open to listening to hearing that idea out from everybody.
I think that sometimes the biggest failure is that folks that are in a position of responsibility doesn't necessarily make you the authority or the most intelligent person on the subject. The very best ideas come from the people who run the machines, who are responsible for the daily activities. And I think that we've done a very good job of being consistent and being open to those suggestions. And sometimes not every suggestion is a good idea, but everyone's important, that you have to at least explore the possibility, or at least do a feasibility review to say, yeah, that really can't work, and here are the reasons why. Or, that deserves some more thought. We can go through the process to see what our options are.
As far as being a leader, what do you think the greatest challenges are facing leaders?
Well, I think that one thing is it takes a lot of energy to be a good leader. You find it whether it's in sports and coaches. You find it in managers all the way up to presidents. It takes an incredible amount of energy to continue to stay engaged, to be enthused, to be challenged. So from the manager side, it's that tenacity to stay in the game, to really continue driving for their growth, their improvements over and over again. Then from the next thing is slowing down to make sure that you put the right people in the right spots to be successful. Not everybody has the same goals. We take a lot of time and energy in interviewing everybody that comes in the building, up to and including every operator. Before they come in the building, the general manager and myself do a final interview. So we have an interview committee. They ask them basic questions, background checks. They make sure that they have the right skills. But then it comes to Stephen and I, and we go through the personality side. Do they have the right work ethic? Do they come from the right background? I mean, we truly try and make sure that every person that comes in the building wants to be here for the right reasons. Not just that it's a job, that it's a good job. It's something that they can grow, they can stay here for a long time, they can see the future. So really putting the right people in the right places to succeed. I think that's a big challenge for any leader, to make sure that they put the right team on the field.
What do you think would be common mistakes the leaders would make?
Well, perfectly from my position, we put 50, 55 new employees in the building this year. The very first mistake I could make is allowing someone else to do the entire selection process and not making sure that I touch everyone to make sure that they have the right personality and the right work ethic to come in the building. That's the very first thing. So taking the lazy approach, not taking the extra time to make sure that you're making the right decisions. Along with that would be is just like the all-employee meetings, not taking the time to be very specific and detailed and answering questions as they're asked, not following up with people, not making your time on the floor to make sure everybody's needs are being met. That if they have something that they need, a tool to be able to be successful, that you provide that for them. So really, it's just not being thorough, detailed, and organized with your workforce.
As far as challenges as a newly appointed leader, can you remember when you were in that first role and what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Well, in any manager spot, you typically have lots of different activities being thrown at you at the same time. So for me, you build from the people side, you build a good amount of trust and following purely by just doing what you say you're going to do. If someone has a question, if they have an issue, if they have a need, even if you can't support the need, by following up and saying, I followed up on your issue, this is the result, sorry I can't help you, or yes, this is the answer, and you continue to follow up with your subordinates. That really is probably the most important thing from the leadership, from the people side. From the other things that you have, it's being organized and following up. You have an assignment, and you have an assignment that's due at a particular point in time. You have to make good on that. And if you can't, then you need to tell someone, and you need to tell them early, and you need to give them the reasons why. And you need to make your new timelines, and that way you can follow up on your responsibilities.
What would you suggest, like as far as one characteristic that every leader should have? I mean, what would that be?
For me, I think it would be it's your integrity, meaning that once again, if you say you're going to do something, you need to do it, and if you're not, then you need to state your reasons why. You never just give a problem; you give a problem and a potential solution. So if it's your credibility or your integrity with the people, they should always believe that whatever you say you're going to do, you're going to do. They should be able to trust you. They should know that you don't have to give them good news all the time, and that's okay. You know, the world is what it is, but they at least have to know that you're going to give them a fair shot, that you're going to be truthful and honest to the best of your ability. Sometimes there's questions that someone will ask that you can't answer. It's okay to say, for specific reasons, I can't answer. But it's really just to do what you say you're going to do. It's just to be consistent.
So integrity is the big.
Absolutely. I mean, if when the business is done here, you know, one thing that I would always want someone to say about me is that, you know, I had integrity. I was credible. You know, I did what I said I would do. I followed up. I was trustworthy. Those things, because, you know, the business is only as good as the people that you have to run it. And if they can't trust you, if they can't count on you, then you're really you're not really going down the right path.
As far as measuring your success as a leader, how do you approach that?
Well, it has to be data driven. It can't be subjective to interpretation. So for us, we have very clear metrics on our business growth. So that's measured in our sales versus our earnings. We have very specific for the plant operations level. That would be like our scrap. You know, how much waste do we have in the products that we make? We would have that in our efficiencies. So if a job is rated for a specific number of parts per hour, then how close did we come to achieving that? We would also then go to our hours worked per units made, our direct labor per unit. That's another one. That's something that's very specific. You can touch it. You can measure it. Those are the things that we have to do. That with those metrics, we can see how we're doing along the way, and it's not something that's subjective for someone's interpretation.
When talking about ethics, how are they important to your industry, and as a leader, how do you ensure that the ethical standards are upheld?
Well, I think that really comes back to that integrity thing as well. We all know what the difference between right and wrong are. we have to build organizations that have the right people with the right tools to do the right things. For us, um, we've experienced a lot of growth, so we've had the easy side. Still a lot of hard work, but you can make good decisions because it's the right business that's there. But it really comes back to work ethic, business ethic. I think that you really have to just fall back on the difference between right and wrong. You do the right things all the time because it's the right thing to do.
Has there been a time in your professional experience where you had to lead through change? And I mean, obviously, especially coming through this new development of this part of Magna, I'm sure you have an experience related to that. And what are some of those difficulties?
Well, yeah. So from the negative side, coming through like the New Venture Gear days, we had a plant that was closing. So the change that you had was you had to manage through a business that was already known to be failing. It was a plant closure. So you had to stay positive and you had to continue to motivate people, even though that you knew your surroundings were crumbling down day by day. So there's one that you have to put in the right perspective of what's your job, what you're actually being paid to do, what's the job description that someone is paying you every day to maintain your attitude and your work ethic to do the right things, even though you know that your job's going away. Then on the flip side of that, then here at Magna, we've been working very, very hard to work through growth. At the same time, we've had the market collapse in 2009, where we had to lay off salary workforce. We had to do business decision things that were very tough, even though we had very good people, but we had a market condition that had collapsed. We had OEMs that were in bankruptcy. They were no longer building cars and trucks. So we had to work through and make the right decisions based on our business, even though it was not a very favorable one. You had people that had worked very hard for several years, and the reward was the market collapsed and we had to lay them off.
So even though you had built good relationships with these people, you still had to try to keep the business aspect of it afloat in order to maybe bring them back on.
Yeah, I mean, our fundamental responsibility here is to continue to be a profitable plant and to have growth. And in that position, you have to make the tough decisions sometimes, and that's where it goes back to your credibility with your workforce. They don't have to enjoy the answer that you give them, but you need to be clear and consistent. Provide data when necessary, so they understand the reasons for the decision. They don't have to support them. There'll always be a reason when people are in the self-defense mode. They'll always want to pick on somebody else because they want to survive. But as a manager, as a leader, you have to make the tough decisions for the right reasons. In this particular case, it's to continue the viability of our company, which long term will be growth and more jobs and stability. In the short time, sometimes there are casualties.
As far as like a mentor or anything, could you name an individual that's directly impacted your leadership style, or maybe mention how he or she has influenced the way you lead?
Well, I got to say, not necessarily directly to this business, but I grew up in a family business. We had actually an appliance store, all things household appliances, washers and dryers, refrigerators. We had electrical refrigeration contracting. I grew up in it, so it would be my father, and really just purely how you work ethic. You get up early, you work all day, you make the right decisions, you're responsible for the outcome. In that particular case, the way you led, the way you worked, truly had a direct impact on just our family's survival. Right, that's how our family was provided for. So taught me how to work, taught me how to think. I was on a truck working with men when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. So how you got along with people, being the young person always on the truck, I took it tough. So you had to work and figure out how to work people's personalities, how to survive, how to get along. When not always were you treated necessarily with the right amount of respect, but you understand in business just as well as anything in life that you can't necessarily control your surroundings, but you need to manage through them. So that's probably the very biggest influence that I had was my father, purely just because I grew up in a working environment, working with men, and really probably that's the single most the single biggest influence and how I manage through the adversity that I see as a leader today.
As far as continuing to improve as a leader, what steps do you take personally to ensure that you are always continuing to improve?
Well, I think that really trying to pay attention to to your surroundings. So, for example, early on, you find that you look at people in a leadership position or in powerful positions, and you think, "Wow, that must be the smartest person ever. That person must have just really have it on the ball." And you realize that they're just people. So when I'm in different environments, whether I'm with a president of a company, a CEO of a company, or the people on the floor, just paying attention, seeing how people interact with each other, seeing what little clues that you see, and you say, "Wow, he really just got that person to come on board with the program that he was preaching, so to speak." So paying attention to people, trying to read them, trying to watch them, trying to follow up and read a little bit, different types of books, biographies of people. So it's really just trying to be proactive and to better yourself, and trying to think about what is it that I can do to better serve the group that I'm responsible for.
In closing, what advice would you give, or suggestions, or anything that you could give to people in our class for pursuing an MBA, so that will hopefully be leaders in the future? What advice would you have for them, or anything that you'd like to say?
Well, I think that generally speaking, there's a couple of different types of folks in the world. Ones that are okay to be responsible for others, and that others that are just the followers that just want to work, tell me what I'm supposed to do. So those that are seeking a career in leadership, is understanding to what lengths that you're going to go to be successful. Just life is in anything else. You have to be willing to put forth the effort and dedication. Understanding that as a leader, sometimes you have to sacrifice personally for the greater good of the organization that you serve. So I think that's one thing. It says, it's not that it's somebody else's job. As a leader, you have to realize that people have shortcomings. They may not have the skills to possess to fulfill a task. You need to make sure that you prop them up, that you give them the right resources, and if it needs more training, it needs something else. But your job is to make sure that everybody succeeds. Some people or some leaders may more pick on the person that has some lacking skills, and then they spend too much time on the negative, as opposed to just making sure everybody has the proper resources to be successful at the task at hand. Because really, you're trying to grow people, you're trying to grow the organization in the right direction, and with that, there's always some negative, but you're always trying to reinforce all the positives, so overall the operation goes in the right direction.
Well, I would just like to say thank you for taking the time to get interviewed by our group, and we really appreciate it. And good luck to you and Magna Powertrain.
Thank you. I wish you all the best.